Hi, man. Welcome to Q Speaks. So from the screen, you can see the confused brother, Nick Cannon. And I don't say that to be disrespectful, but just from my own observations, just with the different things that he have gone through, the different variations of identities this brother has garnered and has, portrayed to the public. And he has right in front of him Candace Owens, the right-winged talker, rhetoric speaker herself, a preponderance of truth, what she likes to detail herself as. But anyway, as you can see, the name of the show is called Council Culture. It's supposed to be a play on the word or the phrase cancel culture, where today's society like to cancel so many people who they do not agree with, which in itself is a very dangerous tactic to put into play, because that type of thinking always comes back on, the people who so ready to cancel someone just because you don't agree with what they believe. But then once you spew something that someone else doesn't believe, you're susceptible to being canceled as well, because as human beings, as individuals, we all have different ideas and, different morals and ethics and principles. So if someone says something that we don't believe in, it's that's just so common to happen, because again, as I said, with everyone being uniquely different, you bound to come across someone that's going to say or state something that's totally different than what you believe in. And we can't have a society where we're always offended by what someone is saying, because there's not going to be no room for growth or any room for intellectual growth. So I digress. Anyway, we're going to get back to this video. I just thought that this video itself would be a great backdrop for me to speak on a few things that I find interesting, and we're going to give it a go.
Speaking your truth and some evident truths that a lot of people don't want to hear and or agree with. And I ended with a question which I want to start with is like, one, being so fearless, how do you function through every day? I mean, you're also a mom of 3, and I mean, even I was surprised to, even when you showed up, I was like, it's regular, it's normal, and all that's going on in the world, you know what I mean? I would expect you to be traveling with Secret Service, just because of the type of things you speak on, the people that you speak on, and you do it in such a fearless way. How do you get away with that?
Well, the first thing is, I know enough about history to know that if they want to kill you, the Secret Service ain't going to stop them. That's the first part. You know what I mean? If that was a thing, then JFK would be alive, right? If that was a thing, Trump wouldn't have gotten shot. And so it's almost to me, the security part is vanity for other people. It doesn't actually make a difference. But the second thing is, I have faith in God. I know God is real. So there is this understanding that I'm always operating with, that this is not it. And I feel sad for people that don't know that God is real, because I know that they don't believe God is real because of this intentional training that happened in the public school system. It's why your grandparents are faithful. Going back to Tucker Carlson clip where he's like, don't you think it's weird that since the dawn of humanity, everybody knew that spiritual forces were at play, goodness and evil were at play, every civilization, and then suddenly post World War II in the West, we were like, no, God's not real.
So yeah, I want to pause it right here and just kind of go into the attack on God. And she's speaking some truths right here, because if you just pay attention to society, there has been an effort, a strong effort of a clear space between, praise of God and praise of man. And the praise of man has become more and more and more prevalent. Man has become more of an idol today, and God has become more of an afterthought. And as she's speaking of the prayer, God being taken out of the school, many of you probably already know about the case of Engel versus Batal, and then also the court case of Abington School District versus Shemp. The first case I stated in 1962, the other one in 1963, which was the removal of mandated school prayers in U.S. and public school, because the thought was that it was infringing upon the First Amendment, which was that, you can express any type of religion, that you want. And their case was that, they didn't want to impose a certain religion onto people, because that's what America is. And I think people need to also understand that too. And that is a part of the issue that I would have with right wingers, is that them having this idea that America is supposed to be this Christian nation. It's true that in the beginning, America did have certain values that came from the Bible, yes. But when you look at the founding fathers, one, many of them were Masons. That's one, and that's another conversation for another day. Two, with having that masonry background, a lot of them came with the idea of enlightenment, and a lot of them had the idea of course, with fleeing the persecution from Great Britain. They had the idea of freely expressing their own religious values and views. And when you have that, you have to understand, when you have a place where any type of religious value can be accepted or can be expressed, well, then now you just have modern day Rome, where you have all these different religions amongst each other. And again, as I stated in the beginning about the whole council culture and about individualism, well, one person's God is going to infringe on another person's God, because each God, each spiritual belief system comes with his own system, again, of morals, of ethics, of principles, of way of life. And those things are going to infringe upon the next person's. So America in itself wasn't created to be some Christian nation, some God-fearing nation. It was just a place created where anyone can come. This is the map, the road map anyway, or the written down constitution, or however you want to describe it, of how America was supposed to be. It's supposed to be this place of, freedom of religion, freedom of thought, freedom of press, just freedom. You can come here, grab your bootstraps, grab yourself up by your bootstraps, rather, and make something for yourself. But in that, there is no room, again, for true, if you want to say, a true religion, or a true way of just doing things this way or that. But because you're going to have all these different people migrating over here to America, as we've seen, and that's why you have all these different ideas and different views, and there's so much confusion going on over here. This is modern day Babylon that we're in over here in America. So that has to be understood.
And they started training you to believe in yourself, and that gets into all types of satanic religions that want to drive you towards humanism. They want that to be the ultimate faith, to place your faith in humans.
And before she get into this humanism aspect that she's talking about, I also wanted to talk about when I brought up those court cases, which helped bring about the change of prayer and God being in school. The 60s was a very monumental time in change here in the Western Hemisphere in America, because in the 60s you had, of course, the civil rights movement during that time. You had the Vietnam War during that time. The assassination of Kennedy. And you also had the counterculture movement during that time as well, which was very significant when it comes to the civil rights movement, and many other different movements, feminism, just many other different movements of that time. Because during the counterculture of the 60s, it was just a significant social political movement. It rejected a lot of the mainstream, or a lot of the traditional norms that was there. You had the free love, you had the freedom, just freedom from, as they thought, the shackles of religion, and different norms and ways of how you would do things, different ethics. And during that time was a lot of use of LSD, and the use of LSD really opened up the minds. And I won't even say open up the minds, but it altered the minds would be a better way of saying that. It altered the minds of many of the individuals of that time. That's where you get your hippies, if you call them that, your free spirits. And you know there's everything is free flowing. You do whatever you want. That's where you get that Aleister Crowley way of living, or that idea of do as thou wilt, Daily Maw. And those of you who may not know, Aleister Crowley was a Satanist of that time, an occultist, right? So a lot of those things, as Candace always even stated not too long ago about the Luciferianism, and that's what's engulfed when it comes to this, and that's where you get again with the LSD use, which helped kind of change the way people thought about different things, where you get the CIA come involved in the MK Ultra, and that's a whole different conversation. That's where you kind of get into the more conspiratorial part of this, but it all goes hand in hand. Let's continue.
Place your faith in science and to not believe in God, like literally to not believe in God. And people, it's funny to me because they will be like, I don't believe in God, like, and they think it's a rational position to have, but these will be the same people that believe so much in government. Like atheists are the most faithful people in the entire world. They will, like what I'm saying, hopping on one foot for COVID.
Right.
And I kind of like what she's saying here too, especially when she speaks about the atheists or the agnostics, because they try to put it upon people who believe in a spiritual based system. They try to put it onto them as if they put their faith into the unknown, right? But in atheists or agnostics seem to make it seem as if that they don't put their faith in anything, and that's far from the truth. They do put their faith in something. They put their faith in man, right? They put their faith in that. They put their faith in themselves, and that goes into self worship, and that's a large part of what humanism is. Just humanism, enlightenment, right? The philosophical and intellectual movement, that emerged, especially during the Renaissance, where it was kind of reinvigorated. And the humanism or the enlightenment, I'm not downplaying all of it, because it did play a good purpose in humanity, right? When it comes to its way of bringing rationalism to the forefront, bringing logic, reading, understanding things, scientific developments. Those things are good, but we can't lean totally on those things. They also brought different issues against the church, which was true, especially to the Roman church during that time, the Catholic church, where a lot of them were practicing indulgences, where the church was very corrupt during that time. And with indulgences, as many as they were requiring people to actually pay money in order to pay for their sins, right? In order to be free from their sins. And that corruption had to be cleaned up. So that's why you had the Protestant Reformation, right? Um, you had Martin Luther in the 100 Theses, and so there was some good that came out of it. And I'm not trying to make this video to completely disregard science and just say to be religious extremists, because that's a problem too. There's a lot of people that are what they call biblical literalists and religious extremists, where they just disregard science altogether, and they don't use facts or logic into anything, which isn't the right way to go.